Hey everyone, it's Alex, and I am here with my very late video going over the winners for the 44th Saturn Awards. The Saturn Awards are, as I've said before in my other videos, an award show dedicated to honoring genres like science fiction, fantasy, horror, action, etc. And if you're not too familiar with the Saturn Awards, it's probably because they've never been broadcast on any TV network ever since they were first created in the early 1970s. They don't usually do live streaming either. I've heard reports that they would be doing live streaming, but it's never shown up on their YouTube channel. So I'm not going to be able to judge the Saturn Awards by its actual ceremony. I'm only going to be able to judge them by the winners. So I'm here today to announce the winners and what I think of them. So let's get right on into it. Now first up, I want to reveal the special awards winners. I didn't make a video about this beforehand because they just listed the awards winners and didn't really add anything else. They didn't add why each person was receiving their award, but I'll speculate as why. So here are the special awards. The Dr. Donald A. Reed Founders Award went to Guillermo del Toro. And I'm guessing maybe that's because of all his recent award success with The Shape of Water, which of course won big at the Oscars, winning Best Picture, Best Director, Best Production Design, and Best Original Score. The Producer's Showcase Award went to Jason Blum. Jason Blum, of course, is a very prolific producer. He owns the production company Blumhouse, and he's been a producer on films like Get Out, Whiplash, the Purge films, Happy Death Day, etc., etc. So he's a very prolific producer, which is why I guess he's receiving this. The Filmmakers Showcase Award went to Jake Kasdan. Interesting choice, and maybe that's because of the fact that he recently directed Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, which was a much bigger critical and box office hit than most people, even myself, could have ever imagined. Like the whole rest of the world, I assumed Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle was going to be crap. I had a feeling it would probably make a lot of money at the box office just because people would go see it just to see what it was and how bad it might be, but to my surprise it was actually quite fun. You know, it's not a perfect movie by any means, and certainly not like a high art type of movie, but for a Jumanji follow-up that was made 22 years after the first film came out, it was quite good. Then the Dan Curtis Legacy Award went to Sarah Schechter. I had no idea who she was, so I had to look her up on IMDb, and basically she's a producer on a lot of superhero TV shows like Arrow, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, and a couple others. I can't remember them at the top of my head. And then finally, the Special Achievement Award went to Don Mancini. I had never heard of him either, so I had to look him up. And basically he's written every single one of the Chucky films, starting from the original, and I know this year marks the 30th anniversary of the original Chucky film, so maybe that's why he's gotten it. Admittedly, I've never seen any of the Chucky films because I'm not a huge horror buff, but maybe I'll watch them someday. Alright, now onto the actual competitive winners. Starting off with the DVD categories. Best DVD Blu-ray Release, Dave Made a Maze. Best DVD Blu-ray Television Release, American Gods Season 1. Best DVD Blu-ray Special Edition Release, Night of the Living Dead. Best DVD Blu-ray Classic Film Release, Lifeboat. Best DVD Blu-ray Collection Release, Dracula Complete Legacy Collection. Now onto the Television Awards. Best Young Actor or Actress on Television, Chandler Riggs, The Walking Dead. Best Supporting Actor on Television, Michael McKean, Better Call Saul. Best Supporting Actress on Television, Rhea Seehorn, Better Call Saul. Best Actor on Television, Kyle MacLachlan, Twin Peaks: The Return. Best Actress on Television, Sonequa Martin Green, Star Trek Discovery. Best Guest Performer on Television, David Lynch, Twin Peaks: The Return. Best Presentation on Television, which basically means Best TV Movie or Miniseries, Twin Peaks: The Return. Best Animated Television Series, Star Wars Rebels. Best New Media Television Series, meaning best television series on a streaming platform. Star Trek Discovery. Best Superhero Television Series. The Flash. Best New Media Superhero Television Series. The Punisher. Best Action or Thriller Television Series. Better Call Saul. Best Fantasy Television Series. Outlander. Best Horror Television Series. The Walking Dead. And finally, Best Science Fiction Television Series, The Orville. And now, onto the Film Awards. Best Costume Design, Jacqueline Duran, Beauty and the Beast. Best Film Editing, Bob Duxey, Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Best Makeup, Joel Harlow and Ken Diaz, Black Panther. Best Music, Michael Giacchino, Coco. Best Production Design, Hannah Beachler, Black Panther. Best Special Effects, Christopher Townsend, Guy Williams, Jonathan Faulkner, and Dan Sudik, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Best Screenplay, Rian Johnson, Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Best Young Actor or Actress, Tom Holland, Spider-Man Homecoming. Best Supporting Actor, Patrick Stewart, Logan. Best Supporting Actress, Danai Gurira, Black Panther. Best Actor, Mark Hamill, Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Best Actress, Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman. Best Director, Ryan Coogler, Black Panther. Best Animated Film, Coco. Best International Film, Bahubali, The Conclusion. Best Independent Film, Wonder. Best Comic Book Film, Black Panther. Best Action or Adventure Film, The Greatest Showman. Best Fantasy Film, The Shape of Water. Best Horror Film, Get Out. Best Thriller Film, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. And finally, Best Science Fiction Film, Blade Runner 2049. Alright, so here are my thoughts on the winners. Now, the DVD winners I can't really comment on. Same with the television winners, because, you know, I haven't seen every single one of these shows in order to properly judge them. They sure love Twin Peaks a lot, that's for sure. And I've never seen Twin Peaks, either the original TV version or this new continuation of it. Now for the film winners, which I can comment on for the most part. Best Costume Design, very glad Beauty and the Beast won this award. That would have been my personal pick. I thought they did a fantastic job of recreating the costumes from the animated film. Especially Belle's famous yellow dress. They did a fantastic job with that. Best Film Editing. Star Wars The Last Jedi isn't necessarily a bad winner per se, but I personally would have given it to The Shape of Water. You know, Shape of Water is one of those films where if the editing was terrible, the story structure would have just fallen apart and it would have not been believable at all. Alright, for Best Makeup. Now, I haven't actually seen Black Panther because I'm way behind on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because superhero films for both Marvel and DC haven't really been something I've been driven to see. I may catch up on them someday, especially if Black Panther becomes a huge awards contender, then I'll binge watch all of them. But even if I had seen Black Panther, I don't know if I would agree with its win here. I personally think it should have won. I remember being shocked last year when it wasn't included on the list of semi-finalists for Best Makeup and Hairstyling at the Oscars. Because just from Bill Skarsgård's makeup alone as Pennywise, I think automatically should have gotten it a nomination, and I was hoping maybe the anger from that snub at the Oscars would have helped it win here, but I guess not. But the makeup in it is fantastic. I mean, you look at Pennywise and you look at Bill Skarsgård out of makeup and you're shocked that that's the person in there. Plus, he was very, very scary. Way more scary than Tim Curry as Pennywise in the 1990 miniseries. Now, Tim Curry was the best thing about that miniseries, but when you put the makeup design from that next to the makeup design from this remake, the remake is way better. Best music. This is a close call for me because Coco would have been my second place choice because the music there is absolutely gorgeous, but The Shape of Water, that music just struck such an emotional chord with me. Alexander Desplat is one of my favorite film composers of all time. He's actually my second favorite, only behind John Williams. And like John Williams, Alexander Desplat knows how to generate emotion. He knows how to literally express emotion through music. And The Shape of Water does that in spectacular fashion. Best production design. From what I've seen of like trailers and photos of Black Panther, the production design looks pretty cool, but I personally think The Shape of Water should have won just because how it recreates the 1960s is just so breathtaking. They just recreate everything about that time period to a T, and they do it in a magnificent way. Probably the best recreation of the 60s since the TV show Mad Men. And for Best Special Effects, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is an interesting win here because, while I haven't really heard too many complaints about the visual effects, not many people were saying they had the best visual effects of the year. Certainly not compared to, say, Blade Runner 2049, Star Wars The Last Jedi, or War for the Planet of the Apes. Those three films were frequently cited by most as having the best visual effects of the year. And I personally would have liked to have seen Star Wars The Last Jedi win this. I wish it could have won at the Oscars too, but I'm sure many people are probably more upset that Blade Runner 2049 didn't win, and it did win at the Oscars. So yeah, that's an interesting win right there, because the Saturn Awards sometimes have, like some other award shows, they have some interesting wins that leave a lot of people going, what? Best Screenplay. Now, Star Wars The Last Jedi did have a fantastic screenplay, but was it on the same level as a film like Shape of Water or Get Out? I don't think so. Screenplay-wise, definitely not. I personally would have liked to have seen The Shape of Water win this, because that was my pick to win at the Oscars for original screenplay at least, because they combine both types of screenplays here, but yet at the Oscars they have the original versus adapted. For Best Young Actor or Actress, this is Tom Holland's second year in a row that he's won this, because he won this last year too for Captain America Civil War. And even if a lot of people do like him as Spider-Man, some other performances on here, especially Millicent Simmons in Wonderstruck and Jacob Tremblay in Wonder, these are kids who have like acting talent beyond their years. Like, you look at some adult performances and they can't even match up to what Millicent Simmons and Jacob Tremblay do in their respective films. And Millicent Simmons, if she is not on here next year for A Quiet Place, and even I'm going to be furious, because she's even better in A Quiet Place than she is in Wonderstruck. And she's phenomenal in both films, just let me remind you. But out of those two, if I could pick which one I think ultimately deserves it more, I would say Jacob Tremblay, because the role he played in Wonder, if they did not get a child actor of the highest caliber to play that role, that movie would not have been as good as it was. Because for a role like that, you need a child actor who's beyond talented than his age would suggest. And Jacob Tremblay, he's only like 11, I think. But this kid has acting chops that not even people like Adam Sandler can ever hope to imitate. Because Jacob Tremblay, he's one of those actors where it's not a question of if he'll win an Oscar, but when he'll win an Oscar. Best Supporting Actor. I'm sure many people are very happy about Patrick Stewart's win here. And I love Patrick Stewart as an actor. I personally would have voted for Bill Skarsgård if I were a Saturn voter, just because what he did as Pennywise, it got under my skin so much that it really creeped me out. Like, I think of how Pennywise is in the book, and watching him on screen, and it's like the best recreation you can hope for. And for Best Supporting Actress, Again, in this case, I can't comment on Denai Guerrero because I haven't seen Black Panther yet. But based on those that I have seen, I personally would have liked to have seen Octavia Spencer win for The Shape of Water. She did get the Oscar nomination earlier this year. Plus, she's fantastic in almost anything she does. And then Best Actor. Mark Hamill was fantastic in Star Wars The Last Jedi, and what he did with the character of Luke Skywalker was certainly something I wasn't expecting, but it might just be his best performance yet in any Star Wars film. So I guess out of these nominees, he would have been my personal second choice to win if I had to rank them instead of pick just one. But if I were personally voting, I would have voted for Daniel Kaluuya for Get Out, because how he reacts to the situation he's in and how he has to literally get out of said situation, you're completely rooting for him 100% of the time, and what happens is so unpredictable that you have no idea what's going to happen, and seeing him react to everything that's going on just makes you root for him even more, and it shows just how much promise he has as an actor, and he's going to be in one of my most anticipated films of this fall, Widows, and I can't wait to see him in that. And then Best Actress, Gal Gadot, I'm sure she's great, but even amongst all of these nominees, nothing could match the power of Frances McDormand's performance in Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Because if you want to use the word tour de force to define an acting performance, that's what you can use it for, because this is the type of performance that could be shown in film schools as a mandatory class study in acting. It's that kind of performance. And then Best Director. I'm still a little bummed Christopher Nolan was snubbed in the first place for Dunkirk, but based on these nominees, Ryan Coogler, he's an amazing director, as evidenced by his work in previous films like Fruitvale Station, but what Guillermo del Toro did for The Shape of Water, only someone like him could have pulled that off, because if you didn't have an insanely talented director at the helm of that movie, it would have just been seen as a cheap B movie like they used to make back in the 1950s, like Creature from the Black Lagoon. And then Best Animated Film. Coco, of course, deservedly won, and if it hadn't won, and I'm sure many others would have been furious, because 2017 was such a weak year for animation that by the time Coco came around, it was just a breath of fresh air that we had at least one amazing animated movie. And then Best International Film. I haven't seen Bahubali: The Conclusion. I know that the first film was a big Saturn contender 2 years ago, but I haven't seen that film either. And often in this category, I haven't seen a lot of the nominees, but I did see The Square, which was also nominated at the Oscars for Best Foreign Language Film. And based on the other nominees here, The Square is what I would have liked to have seen won. For Best Independent Film, here's another category where I agree with the winner. Out of these nominees, Wonder was definitely the best of the bunch, and it was a kids' movie done right, because a lot of times kids' movies that try to teach a social message often come across as preachy and saccharine and sentimental and emotionally manipulative. And while Wonder is a very heartfelt, emotional movie, it pulls on your heartstrings in the right way. It doesn't force you to feel sadness or happiness. You genuinely feel sad or happy in the moments that they're happening. Best Comic Book Film, haven't seen any of them, so I can't judge that. Best Action or Adventure Film, this is the most bizarre win here. The fact that The Greatest Showman was even nominated here in the first place and that it actually won, that is just ridiculous beyond all reason. Because first of all, nothing about it screams action or adventure. Now, Baby Driver, Dunkirk, Hostiles, Kingsman: The Golden Circle, regardless of their quality, they either fit into action or adventure because they have at least one of those elements. What is action or adventure about The Greatest Showman? Does circus choreography count as action? Does it count as adventure? Because they don't really go on any adventures. P.T. Barnum goes on tour with an opera singer named Jenny Lind. Is that an adventure? Plus, The Greatest Showman is the worst movie of this bunch. Now, I know The Greatest Showman's gotten a lot of mixed reception. Some people really hate it. Some people really love it. Some people are meh, which is where I'm at. But seriously, how does this possibly win here? This is probably the most baffling Saturn win since Dracula Untold beat The Babadook a couple years ago for Best Horror Film. And no, I'm not making that up. I wish I were, but I'm not. This is on par with Suicide Squad winning the Oscar for Best Makeup and Hairstyling over Star Trek Beyond. That's what I can compare this to. From these nominees, Dunkirk should have won, hands down. It was my favorite film of 2017, and it's one of the best World War II films ever made. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. For Best Fantasy Film, finally, another winner I can agree with, The Shape of Water. Perfect win. None of the other films, with maybe the exception of Beauty and the Beast from these nominees, came even close to what The Shape of Water accomplished. Best Horror Film, Get Out. Wonderful choice, love it. Best Thriller Film. And this was a tough call for me because 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri was an absolutely fantastic film. And I guess you could say there's some thriller moments because there's a police investigation that's part of it. But I wouldn't necessarily classify it as a pure thriller. Now, something like Wind River, that's a true thriller because that movie is involving a murder investigation from beginning to end. And you're literally on the edge of your seat, and there's some literally nail-biting moments where I was like this while watching it in the theater. And because of those nail-biting moments, I think it should have won for that reason. But this isn't something to get mad over necessarily like The Greatest Showman winning action or adventure film. And then finally, Best Science Fiction Film. I know a lot of people are cheering about Blade Runner 2049 winning here. It would have probably been my second place choice to win if I had to rank them. Personally, I would have liked to have seen Star Wars The Last Jedi win because even though that film has been divisive, to say the least, among Star Wars fans, I absolutely loved it. I think it's even better than The Force Awakens, and it took Star Wars in a whole new direction I did not expect it to go, and I just cannot wait to see what'll happen in Episode 9. Now, I really loved Blade Runner 2049 a lot, and it was a big surprise for me because the original Blade Runner to me is not a masterpiece. I just think it's okay. I thought it had a lot of slow pacing, and there were some parts of the story that needed more explaining. Blade Runner 2049, thankfully, took more time and explained more things and had much better pacing, and it ended up making my top 15 best films of 2017. I just had Star Wars The Last Jedi ranked a couple spaces higher, but again, I'm not going to get angry about this win because this isn't like a Greatest Showman or Suicide Squad type of win. So those are my thoughts on the Saturn Award winners. I'm glad some of my personal choices won, and I obviously wish all of them would have won, but there isn't really anything too much I can complain about because most of the films that are nominated are usually high-quality films that deserve the recognition they get, at least in terms of nominations. But let me know in the comment section below what you think of the Saturn Awards winners. What do you like? What do you hate? And also, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get my new videos as soon as they're uploaded, and I will hopefully be back a few days after this video is posted with my long overdue video on the Emmy nominations. So until then, I will see you guys next time. Bye!